Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you may be. This is Rhonda Pierce, and I'm live here in the conference room at my office here in the Chicago area. As you come on, say hello to our other viewers, our other SCHMETZ friends. Tell me where you're from and what you're sewing. What kind of sewing projects do you have going on right now? So let me see here. We've got the chat going. And all right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get started. So last month for the SCHMETZ Snippet, I was live in Florida at Flash Sew and Quilting in Naples, Florida. I think we may have had some technical difficulties, but I think it showed up on our website, smetsneedles.com. Okay, I can see people are starting to show up. Hi there, Nancy. Hi, Jenny. Oh, good. So she says she's able to find the stream this month. Patty, hello there from Fort Wayne. Yep. And we've got Leslie from Texas. Gail is working on a quilt in British Columbia. Oh, I love British Columbia and the beautiful landscaping and all those trees. Oh, Patty said she missed me. Well, I don't know. I've got these technical things, and most of the time they work, and when they don't, it's really even more disappointing for me. So I'm glad you're here today. All right, Valerie's working on a St. Patrick's Day table runner, which makes me think, oh my goodness, let me put some special glasses on. Luck of the day. How about that? All right, we might as well have some fun, some colorful fun here today. Okay, so last month, our winner of the random giveaway was Pat Stevens from State College, Pennsylvania. And you know what? I got the nicest note from Pat. She was having a lot of fun sorting through all the SCHMETZ and sewing goodies that she received. She especially loved the SCHMETZ needle packs. And then she said that she started watching the SCHMETZ snippets about 6 months ago. And wow, she realized that how much she didn't know about needles. And then Pat asked, hey, gosh, would you be interested in doing a virtual class for my guild, Centerpieces Quilt Guild? And I said, absolutely. And by the way, your guild already got in touch with me. So in November, I'll be giving a SCHMETZ virtual for the Centerpieces Quilt Guild in Pennsylvania. So that was really fun. What a coincidence. All of that played out beautifully. Okay, the question last month was, were you planning or are you planning a sewing retreat? And Pat is going to a mid-Appalachian quilters retreat. So that sounds like a lot of fun. So in a few minutes, I'll have the question for this month so you can win the giveaway or have a chance at winning the giveaway. So yes, I'm right here in the Chicago area. And I got back Sunday from Puyallup, Washington, the Sewing and Stitchery Expo. Had a grand time. I think it's been 15 years that I've been going to the Sewing and Stitchery Expo in Puyallup, Washington. So it was great to see all my sewing friends and to catch up on them and also to meet new sewing friends. Okay, so how many of you got the newsletter? The SCHMETZ newsletter. I actually, these are outfits that I've worn over the years at Sewing and Stitchery Expo. So I thought that was kind of a fun header. This one here is a Shannon Fabrics cuddle vest. Many of you know that I love to sew with cuddle fabric. This here is what I'm wearing right here today. And isn't that fun? This is based on a Mary Malari pattern. It was just a scarf that was really too heavy to wear with my winter coat. So Mary has a clever way to create wraps from shawls. So gosh, you can see I've got this big juicy lip here. And actually, let me just stand up and you can see I've got all kinds of juicy lips. and bold colors on this wrap. So that was fun to wear. Let me see. Oh, yes, I call this my bat wrap. This was a fabric that I found in Vancouver, BC. Oh gosh, I don't know, 7 years ago, and it's just a fun wrap and with a jewel closure. And then also, oh my goodness, in British Columbia at Fabricana, I found this really interesting waterproof fabric, and it was kind of a raspberry crinkle color on the outside of the bolt. And when I when I opened up that bolt, and oh my goodness, there were all these little duckies quacking on the inside. So that was kind of a flannel fabric. So I didn't have to line that; it was already lined. So anyway, I thought you'd be interested to see. I always try to wear things that I've made at the different shows that I go to. So, the different shows that I'm going to. Well, tomorrow I'm leaving for Georgia, north of Atlanta. How many of you are going to the Original Sewing and Quilt Expo in Duluth, Georgia? I'll be there, and I'm giving two classes. One, let's see, on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and another SCHMETZ class live on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And then the following week, I'll be flying into Tampa again for Original Sewing and Quilt Expo. I'll be giving the SCHMETZ class on Thursday, March 14th at 2:30. And then Friday morning at 10:30. So you can see the different live lectures that I'll be giving. You can see they're printed right here in the SCHMETZ newsletter. And gosh, if you want to know where I'm going the rest of the year, because wow, I'm starting to travel again, my schedule is printed in the newsletter, so you can check that out. Also in the newsletter, I hope you took some time to check out that 101 podcast. This is Emily, and for many years we've given SCHMETZ needles to their winner. So Emily is an expert on handbag design, and I thought you might enjoy that. Then my friend Linda Gruppentroff. How many of you know Linda? We see that she writes articles for Threads magazine, industry publications, etc. She was an editor for quite a few sewing publications, I think Sew News and some other ones a while ago. And so she's hosting a trip to Hong Kong. Hong Kong, oh my gosh, I so wish I could go to this on this trip. I already have a commitment in Texas, but check that out. I thought it was really reasonably priced. Unfortunately, I already have a commitment. So as far as my needle point in the newsletter, I just wanted to feature the top stitch needle. The top stitch needle. And I know that's a favorite needle for a lot of you. What's special about the top stitch needle is that it has an elongated eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. Certainly use this for your fashion sewing, top stitching. I know people like to use it for piecing and for quilting too. And the top stitch needle that you can find at your local sewing machine dealer, quilt shops, and the big box shops too. So just like to include a fact on in your newsletter. All right, so let's scoot along because I was really pleased with the number of questions that were posted since yesterday afternoon for me to answer. And before I go through those Q&A, let me give you the random or the question today that the random winner will be selected. Okay, so in order to win the giveaway today, which I don't know, it could be like $300 to $500. I've got a lot of goodies here today. You must answer, why do you sew? Why do you sew? And when I say sew, that includes piecing and quilting. Maybe you like to sew with and make small crafty things. Maybe you like to do home deck. Interestingly, on Sunday when I flew back from Seattle, the gentleman in the seat next to me is a mariner, and he sews sails. For her sailboat. So that was an interesting conversation. So maybe sewing is a hobby for you, maybe it's a job for you, maybe it's an addiction. Or an adventure. Maybe it's a way for you to express your emotions. So lots of reasons to sew. Maybe you like to create clothes that fit you well. So to win today's giveaway, the random winner will be selected by your answer. Why do you sew? Okay, well, let's just scoot along. I want to get through all of these questions because they were really, really wonderful questions. So, Midwest Estate Liquidators said that they recently watched a Bernina video and they were using a newer SCHMETZ needle. The needle went through multiple layers of canvas without an issue. Which SCHMETZ needle would that be? Well, we do have some new SCHMETZ needles, so I'm not sure. And I know SCHMETZ needles are used in quite a few of the Bernina or a lot of different sewing machine company videos. So I'm not quite sure which video you're referring to, but I'll give you two suggestions. For sewing through large layers of canvas, there's always the super nonstick needle. Super nonstick needle. Now, this needle came out right before the pandemic. So this needle has that anti-adhesive coating. It has a reinforced blade and an extra large eye. So it can go through all those layers quite easily. Another needle, and this one is even newer, is the gold jeans needle. This needle, gold, referring to a titanium wear protection coating. The gold jeans needle has a reinforced blade, so to prevent needle breakage and skip stitches, and a medium ball point. So this needle is new. It came out just a couple months ago. You might not even see it yet in your store because of distribution, but we're shipping it now to our distributors. So the gold jeans comes in two sizes, 90 and 100. The other thing I'm going to mention about these gold jeans is SCHMETZ recently replaced or moved the needle size on the needle package. So we're used to seeing the needle size right at the bottom of the package. And what they've done is they've moved it to the top center of the package. So I find it really hard to read. And when they were here in our offices in December, I asked them to replace the needle size to a horizontal format and also to return it to the bottom of the pack. So these things take time. So you're going to see the size kind of located in two different areas on your SCHMETZ needles. So Midwest Estate Liquidators, two possible needle types that were used for that project would be the super nonstick or the gold jeans needles. The second part to their question was, are there any specialty twin needles? Specialty twin needles. Well, twin needles, the widest variety will be with universal needles, universal. So, universal, and you've got a variety of distance between the two needles. So the narrowest distance on the universal twin would be a 1.5 in a size 70 needle. The widest for a universal would be an 8.0 in a size 100. So you can see the distance there. When you're working with these wider needles, oftentimes you'll need to stabilize your fabric so that your stitches don't sink down into your fabric, or so the fabric doesn't sink down into your throat plate. So you might need to do a little bit of testing. The twin needles also come available in stretch, the double hem stitch, embroidery, jeans, metallic, and stretch. So lots of variety. And guess what? There's a new needle. It just arrived in our warehouse last week. It's a twin top stitch needle, a twin top stitch. So you have two twin needles. And what we learned from the newsletter is that the top stitch needle has an elongated eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So these twin top stitch needles, certainly use it for your hemming. If you like to do quilting, you could certainly do echo quilting to embellish. So lots of choices for embellishing your projects with the twin top stitch. This needle will come two ways. There's a 2.5 in a size 80 needle and a wider 3.0 in a size 90 needle. So these top stitch twin, I would guess you'll probably start to see these in your stores probably in April. Of course, you can go to SCHMETZneedles.com, and if you can't wait, you can find them there. So good questions. Thank you, Midwest Estate Liquidators. Let's just scoot along. Lavelle Mullenberg asks, what's the best SCHMETZ needle for sewing fleece? When you are sewing fleece, and I'm guessing you're talking about, let me get, like polar fleece or cuddle fabric or minky. Anytime your fabric has that stretch, you want to use the stretch 9014. So fleece, whether it goes by the name of fleece, polar fleece, cuddle, minky, stretch 9014. What's so special about this needle? Well, it has a medium ball point, so it's going to work nice on those knit fabrics without damaging. This needle also has a smaller eye and a deeper scarf, so it's going to play just a little bit differently than some of your other needles. So stretch 9014 Lavelle is what I would use when you're sewing with fleece. Marie Williams Harrison said that she has a friend that has a vintage Bernina machine, and she wants to repair some jeans. What needle should she use? And yeah, I would use a jeans needle or a universal needle. Both universal and the jeans come in a variety of sizes. So probably at least a size 90, maybe you'll have to go up to a size 100. You'll just have to test. But yes, vintage machines, they do use the SCHMETZ needles. Joanne Golick said that she sees that there's a SCHMETZ quick threading needle in sizes 80, 12, and 90, 14. And she's wondering if we'll be expanding the line. So if you're not familiar with the quick threading needle, what is the quick threading needle? Well, it's a universal needle with a little eye right here in with a little slot right here in the eye of the needle. So again, a universal needle, it's available in sizes 80 and 90, and it has a little slot right here in the eye, so it's easy to thread. So why do we have a quick threading needle? Well, there are a lot of people that don't have the automatic needle threaders on their machine. Maybe they have an older model, an oldie but goodie machine, or maybe they're blind, or they can no longer thread the needle the traditional way. So the quick threading needle is a easy way to thread your needle. Again, what you're going to do is just run your thread along the side of the needle, and it's just going to pop into the eye of the needle. Easy to thread, but guess what? There's a couple little tricks that you need to do when you're working with the quick threading needle. And one is you need to reduce your sewing speed. Because if you're sewing too fast with a quick threading needle, the thread is going to pop out. Easy to thread, easy for the thread to pop out. And also use a very simple stitch. I would use it for just straight stitching. And you probably don't want to use this on knits either, because with this little opening in the eye of the needle, it may snag your knit fabric. So I would use this on woven fabrics. I years ago I did test this needle just to see if I could hem my husband's jeans. I was able to do that just fine, but unless you have a personal reason for using the quick threading needle, I would use a regular needle. But again, quick threading, it allows people to continue to sew with passion because now they can thread their own needle. So great question. Thanks, Joanne, for asking that. Okay, Diane Deacon is asking, what needle or needles do you recommend for ruler work quilting on a domestic machine? Also for quilting as you go projects, and thank you for your time. So Diane, thanks for asking this question. For ruler work quilting or for any kind of quilting, I would probably use, well, you have choices. You have choices. And those choices would be, of course, a universal needle. If you're actually doing the quilting, then I would use it a size 90 needle or larger, depending on your layers and the types of fabric. Universal. If your fabrics are especially dense, then I may use the jeans needle because it has that reinforced blade. If you could certainly use the quilting needle because it was designed specifically for piecing and for quilting. For quilting, I would use that size 90-14. A top stitch. I know people like to use a top stitch needle when they're quilting. And also the microtex is an option too, although the microtex has that very slim acute point. So when you're working with your ruler work, that sharp point, you just need to be aware of it. So 5 popular needle types for quilting with rulers or quilting as you go. I've got these right here. The universal needle, the workhorse of all needle types. The jeans needle, especially good when you're working with denser or heavier fabrics or layers. You've got the quilting needle, so I would use that size 90-14 for the quilting of your project. The top stitch, again, a size 90, and the top stitch, as we learned earlier, has that elongated eye, so there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. And microtex would be a possibility too. So you certainly have options. These needles you can certainly find at your local sewing machine dealer, the big box stores, quilt shops, of course, too. We do have these already bundled up for you over at SCHMETZneedles.com. At the top of the menu, just click Home Sewing Needles, and then there's a drop down for bundles, so you can find that bundle there. Okay. Lenora Schobel says, she puts her used needles in a plastic box after use. How can I tell what they are when I need them? Well, SCHMETZ needles are color-coded, the newer needles since 2014. So you're going to look for the bands of color. The top color band identifies your needle type. So on this little sample here, the top color band is yellow, yellow for stretch. The lower color band is going to identify your needle size. So this is a rosy pink, so that's a size 75-11. Now, universal needles have only one band of color, and that's to identify your needle size. So a universal size 80-12 will just have that single band of orange. A universal size 90-14 will have that single band of blue. So if your needles are just slightly used, how do you keep track of them? Well, I don't like to put them back into the pack because I don't want to confuse mix up my slightly used needles with my fresh needle. So we have the Grab It My Pad. You've probably, if you've been with me before, you've seen this, the Grab It My Pad. This is what it looks like. It'll probably be hanging on the notions wall at your local sewing machine dealer or quilt shop. It's a great way to organize your slightly used needles. So what is this? It's an extra thick piece of felt. And then we updated this 2 years ago. So all of the SCHMETZ needle types are on here using the SCHMETZ color codes, blue for jeans, green for quilting, red for embroidery, etc. And then there's a cell for each of the different needle sizes. So you can just slide your needles in. If you have older SCHMETZ needles, and again, I only use this for the slightly used needles. Certainly not for needles that have already done their job, but for just slightly used needles. If you have older SCHMETZ needles that don't have the color coding, the My Pad comes with a little flower head pen. So once you take that needle out of the package and you put it in your machine, you can just slide it in to the appropriate needle type and size. So at home, I've got all kinds of needles, slightly used needles in my little needle pad. Again, here's what the cover looks like, and you'll find this at your local sewing machine dealer and at some of your fabric and quilt shops too. So good question. Joyce is asking, which needles can you use in a featherweight machine? And those featherweight machines, let me just tell you, I wish I had a featherweight, a 220 or a 221 Singer machine. But in time, I will do that. Featherweight machines, yeah, most, but not all. Most of those featherweight machines will use a regular home sewing machine needle. So you can use a universal needle. You can use a jeans needle. You can use a stretch or a microtex, etc. So again, for featherweight machines, most of the time you can use a regular home sewing machine needle. Every once in a while, and I know there are some vintage machines out there that require a round shank, and I can't give you what those model numbers are right now off the top of my head, but you can go onto Google to find your make and model of your machine and what needle system it uses. So 98% of all of our home sewing machines use needle system 13705H, which means that the needle has a flat shank and a scarf, this little indentation above the eye. Most of our machines use needle system 13705H, but I know there are some vintage machines that require a different needle system. So you're gonna have to do some research. Get Google involved. Okay, Nancy is asking, can you use regular serger needles for woven and with knits without causing runs in knits? And yes, absolutely. The let me see, the serger needle. This is needle system ELX 705. So this is different than our regular home sewing machine needle. It still has a flat shank. And ELX 705 has a groove on the front of the needle, but ELX 705 has a second groove on the back of the blade that some of your serger stitches require. So the serger ELX 705, yeah, use this on your woven and use it on your knits. This needle has a medium ballpoint. So there are also ELX 705 needles with a light ballpoint. That's referred to as an SES, which is a light ballpoint. They're a little bit harder to find. If that's what you're looking for, you would have to ask for it at your local sewing machine dealer. And yes, you can find them over at SCHMETZneedles.com. So do not use this needle in your sewing machine. Do not use this ELX 705 in your embroidery machine. This is only for specific serger machines. So just want to make that point. All right, Susie King, hired, asks which SCHMETZ needles are best for using on your featherweight machine. Yeah, again, that universal needle, you can certainly use that. Top stitch, the uh, micro tacks, the jeans. So generally, as a general rule, you can use any of the home sewing machine needles on your featherweight machine. A good source of information is the Featherweight Shop. If you Google the Featherweight Shop, they're in Idaho and they have a wealth of information. They refurbish featherweight machines and they sell SCHMETZ needles. So you can also check them out. For featherweight information and taking care of I think they have big clubs. I know there's a huge community for featherweights. I'm not in it yet, but I want to be. I will be. Okay, Gail Rain says, "Oh, it's prom time. What's the best needle for for sequin dresses?" Well, you've got choices. The first thing I'm going to ask is it a knit or is it a woven fabric with sequins? So if it's a stretchy, a knit fabric, I would probably use a stretch needle. Probably, well, depending on the weight, either a 7511 or if it's a little bit heavier, a 9014. If it's a woven fabric with sequins, I would probably use the microtex needle because it's so sharp. And if you're stitching through those sequins, it's going to pierce through those sequins easier with the microtex. But here's the deal. When you're sewing with sequins or through sequins, really it's best to try to remove the sequins from your stitch line or your seam line. That way you won't dull your needle as quickly and you'll probably get a better stitch. So again, if you're going to be sewing with sequins, I would suggest that you remove the sequins from the stitch line. And if it's a woven fabric, I would probably use the microtex needle. If it's a knit, I would use the stretch needle. Lynn Fiara is asking what needle to use when sewing on vinyl. Oh my gosh, when you're sewing on vinyl, it's so much more fun when you're using the SCHMETZ Super Nonstick needle. Because when you're sewing on vinyl, what happens? The vinyl gets warm and then the vinyl has a tendency to hug your needle and then you can't see where you're sewing. So the super nonstick will resist the vinyl from hugging your needle. So super nonstick, of course, I always recommend this anytime you're working with a sticky stabilizer, a fusible, maybe you're doing machine embroidery, machine applique, maybe you're sewing on splash fabric, oilcloth, certainly vinyl and Velcro. So the super nonstick comes in 4 sizes 70, 80, 90, and 100. Now, if you're interested in the bundle that we have on our website, smetsneedles.com, I can tell you right now we're out of size 9014. So probably within the next few weeks, we'll have size 9014 again. So we'll have those cute little bundles available. But you can find the single cards, sizes 70, 80, 90, and 100 at your local sewing machine dealer, quilt shop, and some of your fabric stores. You will not find the super nonstick at the big box store. So you're going to go to your local dealer for the super nonstick. So again, Lynn, if you're sewing on vinyl, use that super nonstick. Diane is asking how often should she change the needle and how often should she clean the machine? Well, you know what? That's a tough question or tough questions to answer. First, how often should you clean your machine? Well, I work with a lot of linty fabric, so I've always got my little brush out, and I'm always cleaning out that bobbin hook, bobbin case area. I take my machine, unless I'm doing, a sewing marathon. Generally, I take my machine in annually around Thanksgiving time, Christmas time, after I finished all of my um, Christmas sewing gifts. It's a good time for me to take my sewing machine in. It's like a schedule. Yep. Right before Thanksgiving, when I start to travel, I take my sewing machine into my local dealer for cleaning. As far as changing the needle, well, I don't know. How often should you change the needle? Well, you're going to have to change it right away if you hit a pin. Maybe you're not a very aggressive sewer, so maybe you can change it after 20 hours of sewing. So I don't know. So I know people like to average out to change the needle every 6 to 8 hours of sewing time. What I would rather do is, rather than ask how frequently should I change the needle, is I want you to reframe that question, Diane, to what are the clues to changing out the needle while you're sewing? So, what are the clues? One clue is when you're sewing and your thread is breaking and shredding. That's a clue that you need to change the needle. What you may not know is that if you're not changing your needle frequently enough, the thread will actually create a groove in the eye of the needle. And what's that going to do? Break and shred your thread. So, what are you going to do? Change out your needle. When you're sewing, what's happening to your fabrics? Are your fabrics snagging? Are your fabrics puckering? In a really bad case, when your needle hits the fabric, it actually tucks the fabric into the throat plate. So, hello, those are clues that you need to change out your needle. When you're sewing, what's happening to your stitches? Are your stitches skipping? Are your stitches uneven? Or maybe you're sitting at your machine and you're saying, well, Rhonda, I'm sewing in a straight line. How come my stitches look kind of wiggly squiggly? Well, guess what? Your needle is dull. So what are you going to do? Change out your needle. And finally, the other clue for changing out your needle includes hearing. Hopefully, when you're sewing, you're in that bubble. All is right in our sewing world, right? And your machine is humming along. And then you start to hear that little click, click, clicking sound. And what is it? It's your needle saying, hey, I've been working hard here. Change me. If you ignore that clicking sound, it graduates to a pop, pop, popping sound. Now it's yelling, change me, change me. If you ignore the clicking and the popping, what's happening now? Your machine is going clunk, clunk, clunk. So, hello, change the needle. So, stop and think about it. Even if you took your machine in the next day for maintenance and you say, oh, my machine's making a clunking sound, what's the first thing the tech is going to ask? Hey, when's the last time you changed your needle? So, don't be afraid to change out your needle. It's really the easiest way to upgrade your stitches. After all, you've spent a lot of money on your fabrics and your threads, your patterns and your machines, etc. So just have a stash of needles handy so that you can change out your needle. So I hope that helps you, Diane, and everyone else that's listening here to change out your needle. Okay, Barbara O'Brien. Hello, Barbara. She's asking if there's a bobbin saver for large bobbins. Well, oh my, yes, there is. So let's just talk about bobbin savers for a little bit. Bobbin savers, the round bobbin saver comes in 3 different sizes. The original size is for our regular home sewing machine bobbins. That would be class L or class 20. And most of our home sewing machines use just a regular size bobbin. Doesn't matter if they're plastic or metal, your bobbins are just going to tuck right in there. So if a cat comes along or a kid comes along and uses this as a frisbee, your bobbins are going to just stay nice and snug right here into your bobbin saver. All right, so then we've got another size, and that is the M class, the M class. And M class bobbins are a little bit larger. They're about 1 inch in diameter. So this would be a larger machine that requires the M class bobbin. So the M class bobbin saver comes in this neon green. Then there's one other size of bobbins, and that's the jumbo size. So these jumbo bobbins are about 1 and 1/16 inch in size. So you can fit about 20 some bobbins right here. It's a deeper cavity. The jumbo bobbin saver comes in 2 different colors. So for as far as the round bobbin saver, you've got the 3 different sizes. So be aware of the different sizes of bobbins and bobbin savers. So with the original round bobbin saver, so that's our regular home sewing machine bobbins, then we came out with the bobbin saver square because people wanted something that would hold more bobbins and was more efficient with space. So this one will hold about 60 regular bobbins. Doesn't matter if they're plastic or metal. If your bobbins are full or empty again, they fit nice and snug again. So if somebody decides to use it as a frisbee, they'll stay right in there. Then what happened? Well, some of the machine companies are offering more home sewing machine needles with larger bobbins, the jumbo bobbins. So again, jumbo is referring to the size of the channel. Again, this is for bobbins of about 1 and 1/16 inches. So this one is available in the red, the jumbo size, and the regular bobbin saver square comes in red or blue. So these you're going to find at your local fabric stores, your quilt shops, and your machine dealers too. So good questions. Thank you, Barbara. And yes, Anita knew the answer to that too. All right, Heather is asking, what is a quilting needle? Well, I just happen to have a pack of quilting needles here. All right. So this is one of the more colorful packages or cards, I'll say. It shows quilting on the card. The quilting needle is available in 2 sizes, 7511 and a 9014. So what's so special about this needle? It has a special taper. A special tapered point specifically engineered for piecing and for quilting. Piecing and for quilting. And this needle has a slightly rounded point, so it works with all kinds of fabrics. So the quilting needle, don't let the name trip you up, is used for both piecing and for quilting. For most of your projects, you'll use the size 7511 is frequently used for the piecing of your project, and the larger size 9014 is used for the quilting of your project. So it says quilting, but you can use these for both piecing and for quilting because it's got that special tapered point specifically designed for piecing and for quilting. So good question. Thank you. Christine Stoltz Hunter said she bought 4 packs of SCHMETZ Microtex needles. And I just have to say, Microtex is my favorite needle, especially size 80. The eye of the needle is so small. Yes, that is right. The eye is small on Microtex needles. That she was unable to use her Bernina automatic needle threader. She was also unable to thread the Microtex manually, and she gave up and she went back to her regular needle. So any hints on threading the SCHMETZ microtex needle? And I will say, yes, microtex. Here's what the microtex looks like. This microtex needle, the generic name for a microtex is a sharp needle. The microtex needle has a very slim acute point, so you get really clean, precise stitches with the microtex needle. It's a great needle to use also with batik fabrics. And because the microtex has that very slim acute point, guess what? It's going to dull quicker than any of your other needle types. So you will need to replace the microtex more frequently than any other needle type. Now, the microtex comes in a variety of sizes, 60, 70, 80, and a 90. And across the board, no matter what kind of machine you have, with an automatic needle threader, oftentimes those threaders work with size 80-12 needles and larger. So some of them can thread size 75-11, and some can do a 75-10, but oftentimes, no matter what the brand of machine is, the automatic needle threader will not thread the smaller size of needles. That includes Microtex 70, 10, and the smaller size 60/8. So yes, you're going to have to thread your Microtex 70 and smaller using hand and eye coordination. Now, one idea for you when you're threading that microtex, that very small needle with the small eyes, is to take your thread and um, take the end of your thread and run the end of the thread into the groove of the needle so that it just slides right into the eye of the needle. So other than that, I don't really have a solution for you. Yes, I agree that microtex is it has that small eye, and the smaller needle sizes, no matter what needle type, are sometimes kind of hard to thread. And oftentimes the automatic needle threader will not work. I know that some machine companies have a little adjustment kit that they can do in that the text can alter the location of the needle threader, but overall you're just going to have to do a manual threading of them of those smaller size needles. Good question, thank you. Okay, let's scoot along. Okay, Lori. She's asking, what needle should I have used? Lori Nuda. She was working on an embroidery project, and she used the gold embroidery because she was working with metallic threads. However, she ended up with some very small holes. And she tried to she used a variety of stabilizers specific for knit fabrics. And she's asking, what needle should I have used? And she's also working embroidering on knit. So, wow, lots of things going on here. And for embroidery on knit, yeah, I probably would have used an embroidery needle or a gold embroidery needle, and the size 75-11. But here's the thing, with SCHMETZ, you have option. And unlike days past when we had just a limited number of types of fabrics and a smaller number of stabilizers and just a few select threads to use, you've got a variety of needles, needle types and sizes to use. So sometimes you just have to experiment. So yes, I probably would have used an embroidery or a gold embroidery needle too. But I always like to have a little stash of needles on hand for situations like this when I don't get the stitch quality that I like. So other options for you, Lori, would be the super nonstick. The super nonstick, where are you? The super nonstick, it's going to have a larger eye, and with that anti-adhesive coating is going to glide through your fabric and through your sticky stabilizer. So I would certainly give this a try. I would probably start with the smaller size 70-10. 80-12 might work, but I would start with a size 70-10. Other options would be a top stitch or metallic needle. What we learned earlier, if you got the newsletter, is that the top stitch needle has that elongated eye. So there's less stress on the thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So I would use a smaller top stitch needle. So again, sometimes it's a dance between the fabric, the thread, your needle, and your technique. And sometimes you just have to test. Penny Parsons asks, what needle size is better for quilting? For quilting your quilt on your home sewing machine? Yeah, you've got options. So let me just go through those options. Universal, great needle choice. Lots of quilters like to use the universal needle for both piecing and for quilting. If you're working with denim, or maybe you're working with heavier fabrics, that jeans needle with the reinforced blade is a great needle choice. Some people like to piece and quilt with the top stitch needle, so that's a possibility. Of course, there's the quilting needle. I probably use the size 75, the 90-14 for the piecing of your project. And last but not least, where is my Microtex? Oh, here it is. Microtex needle. The Microtex needle, generically known as a sharp needle. So at least a size 80 for quilting. I generally use a size 80 for piecing. Sometimes I can use that for quilting too. So all of these needles you can find at your local sewing machine dealer, quilt shop, fabric stores, and yep, they're already bundled up for you over at SCHMETZneedles.com with a little luggage tag and a ABC pocket guide. So good question. Susan Moe was asking about lightweight fleece. She's going to be sewing a satin blanket binding onto lightweight fleece. What needle should she use? Well, you got options. I would suggest that you have both of these on hand. I would probably use a universal needle. I think with the universal, when you're combining that satin binding with a stretch fleece, the universal would work. The stretch needle might work too. So, Susan, it looks like you have your own consultant too, Andrew. So I think Andrew probably researched well, and universal or a stretch needle, even that Microtex would work too. So find out what works for you. Again, there's so much variety in the types of fabrics and the threads that we're working with. Okay, after I pulled all these questions this morning, I went back in at about 10:30 just to see if there were any more questions. And Deanie M. Petrunia asks, what's the best needle to use for minky fabric? Minky. Well, I did answer that already, but let me come back to it. If you're working with minky, cuddle, or Shannon Fabrics, the Stretch 90-14 is your needle of choice. Stretch 90-14. It has that smaller eye, a deeper scarf, and a medium ballpoint. So you get a great stitch with Stretch 90-14 when you're sewing with minky or cuddle fabric. Gail Blankley, and this is the last question. Wow, time is scooting along. Gail asks, what's the best needle for fused applique? And Gail, I'm going to suggest that super nonstick needle, the super nonstick that's available in the 4 sizes, 70, 80, 90, and 100. And I'll also just mention that there's soon you will find another new needle, a new black needle called the super fine needle, black super fine needle. And like the super nonstick, it has that same dark kind of gunmetal coating, and that's the anti-adhesive coating. So it's going to resist any stabilizers or sticky fusibles that you might be working with when you're working with applique. So this super fine needle is available only in the size 70. It might be a little bit hard to find right now, but I would guess that you're going to find it at a sewing machine dealer. You won't find it at the big box store. So black super fine is a size 70. It has a smaller eye, a slightly rounded point, and that anti-adhesive coating. So especially use this too when you're working with your finer fabric. So I'm just giving you a tease on this black superfine. I've given you a couple of teases, right? The top stitch twin, the gold jeans. So you're going to be seeing some new needles real soon at your local store. Okay, so I haven't been able to read the chat, but my trusty colleague has been here and he's been looking at your replies. The question to answer to win today's giveaway. Oh my gosh, I didn't even show you what we've got. I've got 6 minutes. Okay, I've got this Alicio wool mat, a nice steaming mat. So this is a pressing mat. It's got these little orange tabs, so you could actually you could actually butt up several of these squares together to make a larger pressing area. So thank you, Alicio, for the mat. Sometimes, you know, they've provided irons in the past. So I was glad to get this wool mat. Our friends at Shannon Fabric, you know, I'm a huge fan of Shannon Fabrics. This kit is called Our Planet. And wow, it's got images of the world, the world flat, and the continents are labeled. So the colors are black, dark lime, and navy. So yes, this is Cuddle Fabric. What needle are you going to use? Stretch 9014. That's right. Okay, from our friends, we've got the needle travel guide as you are making plans for your shop hops this year. You've got all the quilt shops and fabric and yarn stores listed. We've got the McCall's Quilting magazine from Quilting Daily. Our friend Mary Malari has provided this lovely little church ladies apron pattern, one of her most popular patterns, with her wonderful instructions. From Quilt Tony, we've got the fantasy mermaid, the pixelated mermaid. This would be a great project, especially for some of your younger kids that are on online and they do anime. From our friend Amy Berrickman, Treasured Threads. And this is a little kit that she's got so that you can do repairs and do fun little projects, small projects. You'll find her products now over at colonialpatterns.com. Colonialpatterns.com. From our friends at Taylor Seville, we've got these little bobbin toppers. Aren't those cute? Keep your bobbins and your spools of thread together, married up, plus the famous magic pins. But these are actually fork pins. So you can kind of see right here, fork. Oh, I got 3 minutes. Our friends at Wonderfill, I got a little basket of threads here, have supplied a variety of threads. Our friends at Clover, yep, our friends at Clover have these little wonder pins. Love those. From SCHMETZ, oh goodness, of course we have to include SCHMETZ. We've got the ABC Pocket Guide, and then we have a variety of needles. And you know what? I tucked these into this little industrial box. I think these boxes are so cute. When we get industrial needles, wow, they come in these nice little boxes. I think that's 1,000 needles per box, maybe more. All right, so I've got a whole variety of needles for today's winner, plus the little handy little luggage tag. Everybody wants that luggage tag. All right, so Paul has selected a winner. Okay, so the question was, why do you sew? You know, expression of emotions, relaxing, gift giving, one of a kind, hobby, job, adventure. Maybe you're addicted. So our winner today is Marie Aldridge, and Marie says that she sews because it's cheaper than therapy. Cheaper than therapy. So, okay, Marie, to claim your prize here today. Oh, and Marie is from West Jupiter, Florida. West Jupiter, Florida. To claim your prize today, you need to send an email to info@smetsneedles.com. Info@smetsneedles, all one word.com. I want to say thank you to each of you for being here. Oh, and I still have a minute. How many of you ordered the Smets tin with the chocolate a couple months ago? Well, we did really well on these little tins. So I'm thinking about I can get these tins again, but without the chocolate. And I want to put needles. So what do you think? Is that a good idea? Putting some needles in here and offering the tin? Put a little comment in the box. I should have mentioned this earlier. So thank you for being here today. Oh, I see Joan is here. I see Mary is here. Of course, Paula, Jana, Heather. Thank you for being, and I wish you luck each and every day with every stitch you make. Thanks for coming by today. So, Smets.